Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Putting the Pieces Together, an OVC Grantee Orientation. So today's presenters, we have a wonderful group of OVC staff here. All of them have several years of experience with OVC and in the field, and they will each introduce themselves right before they do their part of the presentation. Today's goals. We would like to inform the participants and provide you with knowledge and resources so that you can successfully manage your OVC grant. Several learning objectives will be covered today. We want you to gain a greater understanding of OVC's mission, help you identify the key grant documents, understand the terms and conditions of your award, including reporting responsibilities, recognize your obligation to comply with federal requirements, and help you become familiar with available resources. We'll start off the webinar with an overview of OVC, and then we will break down the award package, reporting mechanisms, monitoring tools, and tools for success. OVC is committed to enhancing the nation's capacity to assist crime victims and to help provide leadership in changing attitudes, policies, and practices to promote justice and healing for all victims. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce the Office for Victims of Crime Director, Darlene Hutchinson.
Good afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for participating today. This is an exciting opportunity that we have to communicate with our grantees and share a few tips with you. I especially thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules today. I know every one of you are juggling a lot of things and wearing a lot of hats, and appreciate you making this webinar a priority. And many thanks to the staff at OVC and our contractor friends here that are helping us pull this off. I really sincerely thank every one of you for the work that you're doing out there across the U.S. Many of you are providing direct services to victims, and that is so vital, and many of you are serving an administrative role, and every piece of that puzzle is very, very important, and we appreciate the work you're doing on the front lines to serve victims, because as Michelle said, our goal is always to help those victims, give them the resources they need to heal and gain a quality of life. I've spent about more than 20 years in the field as a volunteer myself, and so I totally get the effect that you're having on lives, and that you are the faces out there in the field and the feet that are doing the work. I urge you, as you learn more this afternoon, to be in touch with your grant managers as you have questions. They're very accessible, and we have a fabulous staff at OVC that are eager to help you. Some of you I've met, and I'm looking forward to crossing paths with the rest of you as I will be traveling periodically across the country. And thank you again for the work you're doing, and I'm eager to participate and listen to what our staff has to offer today, too.
Now we're going to give a brief video on OVC.
My mother and my brother were murdered in front of me. I was 10.
My daughter-in-law looked through the glass, and her eyes showed horror, and she said, "Nana, what's happened to you?" And I said, "I've been raped. I've been raped."
I met a guy at a church, and he wanted to be my friend, and instead he assaulted me, and I felt very scared.
There is behind every case that involves a crime of violence a victim, a very real human being who has needs and needs to be spoken to and needs to have the system explained to them.
The Office for Victims of Crime was created in 1984 to enhance victims' rights and services for all victims across the United States.
The Office for Victims of Crime is a federal agency created by Congress that is a part of the Department of Justice.
It is the government funding agency for crime victims compensation programs and victim assistance programs.
The Crime Victims Fund is distributed in a number of ways by the Office for Victims of Crime. Part of it goes to support other federal agencies who are providing services for victims. Part of it goes to support model programs and practices, but the majority of the funding goes to the states.
The Office for Victims of Crime is not the provider of services, but they fund states, and then states can subgrant the money out to direct service providers. Each jurisdiction, each state is going to be different, and by distributing the money to the states, they determine where the greatest need is and what the need is.
Victim service providers need very specialized programs to reach hard-to-find victims who are not always assured that they are going to find welcoming and accessible services when they do reach out for help.
The Office for Victims of Crime is very committed to the professionalization of the crime victim services field.
We do that through developing new programs, through training and technical assistance, and disseminating information about model programs that benefit victims of crime.
There's an intentional effort to get everyone together so we know how to share resources, we know how to work together.
The Office for Victims of Crime listens to the needs of state administrators for victims' compensation and assistance, and then gives us the tools we need to provide assistance to victims of crime.
Good afternoon. My name is Joel Hall with the Office for Victims of Crime, and I'm a program specialist with the State Compensation Assistance Department. Before I start, I want you to understand that those in attendance today represent many different grant programs throughout our office. This webinar is to act as a general orientation highlighting areas that apply to almost all OVC grantees. If you hear something today that you are not familiar with, that might be because it doesn't apply to you. Please contact your program specialist to make sure that you are in compliance. Okay, now I'm going to provide a brief overview of OVC with the purpose of giving the audience a general understanding of the structure of our office, as well as a general understanding of what the Crime Victims Fund is and what types of programs it supports. As a national leader in the crime victims field, OVC supports many programs and initiatives nationwide beyond just victim service grants. OVC raises awareness about victims' issues, promotes compliance with victims' rights laws, and provides training and technical assistance as well as publications and products to victim assistance professionals. As we saw in the video, OVC is dedicated to a constant improvement in the nation's response to crime victims. The grant funding that you received and the reason that you are here today is part of that response. We, the Office for Victims of Crime, depend on organizations like you to administer direct service to victims to support our mission. Okay. Within the department, OVC is only one program office that is housed in a larger organization called the Office of Justice Program. This office is the department's innovative leadership to federal, state, local, and tribal justice systems by dissemination of state-of-the-art knowledge and practice across America. In addition to the 6 program offices, OJP is supported by as many as 8 components that help program offices administer grants. You may hear your program specialist or your grant manager talk about other things such as the Office of General Counsel, financial, or what we call the Office of the Chief Financial Officer, IT, or which we call the OCIO. These are many of our support offices that help us manage GMS, manage financial monitoring and things of that nature. They all help us, but they're not part of our office directly. As you can see, you're now looking at OVC's organizational chart. This chart gives an overview of the many different parts that make OVC work. If you look at your right, you will see the State Compensation Assistance Operations Division. This one's what I'm part of, so I thought I'd start here first. The Crime Victims Fund's largest funding mechanism is the state's victim assistance and compensation programs. I will speak more about this in the next few slides, but for now, let's focus on the remaining components of our division, which include the operations team, where you have budget, performance measurement, and logistical support staff. You have the communications team, who are responsible for OVC publications, the OVC Resource Center, and OVC's website. and the contract for our Training and Technical Assistance Program, which we refer to as TTAC, which we'll talk more about later on in this presentation. The next division I'd like to talk about is the National Program Division, NPD. This division houses many innovative national scope demonstration projects as well as other innovative special emphasis programs. This division manages the largest amount of OVC discretionary grants, and if you are attending this training and not a state or tribal grantee, it's a very big possibility that you are part of that division. Finally, we have the Federal, International, and Tribal Division, which we refer to as FIT. This division works with federal agencies such as the FBI, the Executive Office of the United States Attorney, the military, Secret Service, Department of Prisons, and many, many other federal agencies. OVC does not directly provide grants to these federal agencies, but instead provides funding through a mechanism we call Interagency Agreement, IAAs. In addition to federal agencies, this division is also tasked with working with tribal communities by providing comprehensive funding to American Indian and Alaska Native tribal governments to support public safety, victim services, and crime prevention. Lastly, FIT is also tasked with leadership and funding to victims of mass violence and international terrorism, and I'll detail that more later on. OVC supports many types of programs through our three divisions. There are way too many programs to list in a short webinar, so I am only going to focus on three. If you want more information on the many different types of programs we have, please visit our website at www.ovc.gov, where there is a plethora of resources for you to look at. Let's first start with the largest grant program, which I personally work for. Nearly 95% of the CVF is used to support the formula grant programs, which provide lifeline services to help victims to heal in the aftermath of crime. There are two separate formula grant programs that are called the State Crime Victim Compensation Program and the State Victim Assistance Program. State Crime Compensation Program grants supplement the state by reimbursing victims of violent crime for out-of-pocket expenses. What this means is if you are a victim, you can directly apply for compensation to reimburse out-of-pocket expenses such as medical expenses, funeral expenses, mental health counseling, and many other. It really depends on the state and their statutes. State Victim Assistance Programs, which we refer to, which are formula grants, are to provide sub-grants or basically services to sub-granting agencies throughout the state. All states and most territories receive annual VOCA assistance grant consisting of a mandated base amount plus additional funds based on population, i.e. there's a formula which we determine based on population size and need. That usually comes from Congress. The next program I'd like to discuss is the Mass Violence and International Terrorism. These programs are supported by the Anti-Terrorism Emergency Reserve taken directly from the CVF. This reserve supports the anti-terrorism and emergency assistance programs, which support state and federal efforts to respond to mass violence. An example would be Las Vegas or maybe Florida, the Pulse shooting. We might provide services and funding in terms of helping them support the efforts for recovery. And then we have the International Terrorism Victim Expense Reimbursement Program, which we refer to as IFRB, that can assist victims of terrorism internationally if the states are unable to provide services. What you're looking at on this slide is a brief overview of the Crime Victims Fund cap. It's several of its cap. You are looking at the Victims Crime Fund and 4 years of the cap. There's plenty of years going back to 2000, but we're just going to focus on these two. From 2000 to 2012, the amount of the annual cap varied from $750 million to $705 million. Starting in 2015, the cap took a dramatic shift upward. The cap, again, this is what we use to fund our programs throughout the country. There's the Crime Victims Fund, which all the monies which come from fines, fees, penalties go into, but we're only allowed to spend so much of that. Many of the reasons for why we have this cap, but over since 2000, 900%, while the cap has remained in place, the cap has basically the fund has grown 900% while the cap remained in place. In short, the cap was expanded to ensure that the remaining funds were not offset by other federal agencies, and the purpose of this money, as laid out in 1984, remains clear: to serve victims. So that's why you see a dramatic jump from 2014, 2015. Many of you probably would not be grantees, right now if it wasn't for that expansion, and we are very thankful for it, and I think the states and many of the discretionary grantees are grateful of our expanded services. This slide highlights VOCA's authorized activities. I'm not going to go too much into this one. It's similar to what we spoke about 2 slides ago, but instead of stating what programs or initiatives we support, it directly relates to grant allowable activities. Each section gives an example of what is authorized to be funded, but in no way is exclusive. I recommend that for more information on what is allowable under VOCA's formula grants, you visit our website, look for the VOCA Victim Compensation Guidelines and the Victim Assistance Final Rules. This will give you a complete list of what is allowable to be paid either by your grant or another agency. Several of you may actually be both VOCA formula subgrantees through your state and direct OVC discretionary grantees through one or more programs. Many times these services can be used in tandem to support victim needs in your area. I recommend that you follow up with your state administrating agency, whose addresses can be found on our website under our resource map. And if you are not currently a VOCA formula subgrantee, maybe you can look into applying whenever they have an RFP to expand and enhance your services. I want to thank you for my presentation, and I'll be around for any questions. Oh, polling questions. Which of the following is the focus of your OVC program? 1, human trafficking, state compensation or victim assistance, tribal victim assistance, national scope training and technical assistance, victims legal assistance, and demonstration service projects. Please answer that now. You'll see over to your right. We're going to take about a minute and a half to get your answers, and then we will immediately post them once we have them. We're curious to see how many of the, how many people are on here. So go ahead and press the buttons, and we will wait. Well, we're waiting. Oh, here we go. So we have a large part. We have a lot of state and compensation and victim assistance people, which is shocking. And why do we ask these polls? I'm sorry I skipped the first one. I was very excited too. But basically, we're going to use this to help us understand who our audience is and how we best can serve them. Some of it is to test knowledge of what maybe you don't understand, but this question is clearly for us to understand who our audience is. And so we have a winner, is state compensation at 36%, human trafficking, actually tribal victim assistance coming at number 2, followed by human trafficking. And thank you very much. Well, now I'm going to overturn to my colleague.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bethany Case, and I'm so pleased to be here with you today to help demystify something called your award package or award document and the special conditions contained within. I was an OVC grantee for 6 years, and now I've been an OVC grant manager for 3 years, so I hope to provide you with a balanced perspective today. I pride myself in serving as a translator of federal speak into plain language, so I'm going to try to make this as painless as possible. First, there are a handful of documents that will be your guide, your touchstone during your OVC grant. Your award package is very important, and it's basically a letter from OJP that formalizes your grant award and then outlines a series of special conditions that are considered the terms of your award. Think of this as a contract. Your organization's authorizing official reviewed this document when you received your award. They initialed every page, and they submitted it to OJP, accepting the terms of this award. And so now you're stuck with it. Congratulations on your award, but you do need to know that in order to successfully manage your funds and maintain access to your funds, you must comply with all of the terms or special conditions of your award. Generally, grantees have between 20 to 50 special conditions that guide their award. So here on the screen we have we did have a little screenshot of what the award package or award document looks like with an example of a special condition. But be sure that you read your award document, ask for it if you haven't already seen it. Read it, digest it, reach out to your grant manager if you need some help translating what these special conditions mean. Because there are so many special conditions, and we will not be reviewing all 50 of them today, and some of them vary from award to award, we will be covering the highlights of the special conditions. This will help us all establish a baseline understanding of some of the standard OJP and OVC special conditions. You can always reach out to your OVC grant manager with questions about your award special conditions. A second critical document that will serve as a resource during your grant is the DOJ Grants Financial Guide, and I cannot stress to you how important this document is. You'll see here a screenshot of the recently updated DOJ Grants Financial Guide. It was updated in December of 2017. And over the years, it's been updated a number of times to reflect current federal guidelines and laws. But most recently, it was updated to reflect 2 CFR Part 200, otherwise known as the Uniform Administrative Requirements. Currently, this latest draft reflects a uniform guide on behalf of all 3 DOJ grant-making components, which is OJP, which we fall with them, COPS, and OVW, so that we're providing consistent guidance. I want to highlight that there are penalties associated with not complying with these special conditions. And for more information about that, you can find, you can go online, search. I like to use the PDF version and then use the find function. But you will find on page 128 some of DOJ's remedies for noncompliance. Basically, we strongly encourage you to follow all of the requirements, and we are here as your grant managers to help support you in doing that. In recent years, DOJ has expanded its financial management training requirements. You can see the updates on this slide. The expansion includes who is required to take the training, and so now both the program point of contact listed in GMS and the financial point of contact listed in GMS are required to take this training. You can do it online or you can do it in person. Everyone listed in GMS. So when you list multiple folks as your program points of contact and your financial points of contact, understand that every single person listed in GMS must complete this training. When? You must complete it within 120 days after the date of the award, or if you switch up and you change your point of contact or financial point of contact, you need to have that new person complete it within 120 days of that change. Most recently added to the financial guide is the expiration date of those training certificates. So you must complete this training every 3 years. So if you completed this training on or before January 1st, 2015, you'll satisfy this condition. But if you're around that date, then your training certificate is also expired. So you'll need to retake that training. And there's some more information in the DOJ Financial Guide about this, starting on page 151. OVC awards funding to grantees in the form of grants and cooperative agreements. If you have a cooperative agreement, your award package will contain a number of additional special conditions that explain the expectations around OVC's involvement. In short, OVC elects to make awards in the form of cooperative agreements when the project is one that is developing or providing something new to the crime victims field. Cooperative agreements enable OVC, through this legal instrument, to be more active partners in these projects. So on this slide, we highlighted some of the language that's contained in those cooperative agreement special conditions. But essentially, if you have a cooperative agreement, that means that OVC is going to want to be more involved, and they're going to want to be apprised of your progress throughout the life of the project, review and approve critical documents, be involved in any potential redirection. But as with all of our grants, the day-to-day operations absolutely rest with you, the grantee. This is everyone's favorite special condition and topic, conferences and training. Again, we strongly urge you to refer to the most current language reflected in the DOJ Grants Financial Guide in this area, because we know if you have been OVC grantee over the years, you'll know that this guidance has changed. So the most recent guidance is reflected in that most recently published guide. Essentially, there are allowable costs, there are allowable expenses associated with conferences and trainings. All that information is in the financial guide. So no matter what, if you have a grant or a cooperative agreement, you have to follow those rules. For example, no food. If you have a cooperative agreement, and this also applies to our contracts, there are additional pre-approvals that have to take place. So beginning in the financial guide, beginning in Chapter 3.10, you can read over what requires a pre-approval. And this can be a tricky process, so review this if you plan to have any meetings or trainings. Meetings and conferences are defined broadly, and they are clearly defined in the DOJ Financial Guide, but they are defined broadly to include meetings, retreats, seminars, symposiums, events, and group training. There is one exception, and those are routine operational meetings. If you want to figure out if what your event or meeting is, if it fits within those parameters, you can reference page 79 and 81 of the DOJ Financial Guide. There's a 10-question checklist that will help you determine where you fit. I forgot to mention the timelines associated with this requirement, so please pay special attention to that in the financial guide. Those can range from, you have to have all of your pre-approval materials submitted between 90 and 120 days ahead of hosting a meeting or conference. Okay. As a recipient of federal funding, you are required to report on both the programmatic progress of your project as well as the financial status of your award. These reports, in combination with ongoing discussions with your OVC grant manager and other monitoring activities, help OVC to assess your progress on an ongoing basis, identify promising practices that could be shared with the larger crime victims field, and identify areas in which grantees may be in need of technical assistance. These reflect the Grants Management System GMS reporting requirements. You may also, some of you, probably about half of you or more, may also be required to report in the Performance Management Tool, PMT. My colleagues Jasmine and Matt will be talking more about reporting in those systems in the next section. Because you're being funded with federal dollars, you're obligated to follow all relevant federal law with respect to confidentiality and privacy. You all work with sensitive information and situations, and it's critical that everyone's privacy and personal information is fully protected. Generally, OVC has two standard special conditions that help to provide assurance of our clients, the people that we serve, confidentiality and privacy. First, everyone who serves victims is expected to provide OVC a written copy of its organization's confidentiality policies and procedures, which all of you, I'm sure, have in place already. And second, if you're conducting data gathering activities that may involve the collection of personally identifiable information, like focus groups and surveys, you're also required to fill out and submit the OVC's templated privacy certificate, which is a document that we have established that just guides you through laying out what the activities are that you're going to be carrying out and what the protections, what actions you're taking to protect that very sensitive data. And we have a process for reviewing and approving those privacy certificates, so please get with your grant manager to be sure that you know what that process is. We have centralized privacy certificate reviewers within the office, and so there's often a bit of a timeline associated with review and approval of those. Another critical special condition applies to your award timeline. As all of you now know, thanks to today's orientation, OVC's statutory authority is the Victims of Crime Act, VOCA. VOCA includes language that says exactly what is on this slide, that VOCA funds are available during the federal fiscal year of the award plus the following 3 federal fiscal years. Because this timeline is dictated by the statute, the law, OVC does not have the ability to approve exemptions beyond this time period. And finally, I just want to call out another special condition that will likely apply to many of you, and that's a single audit requirement. You can find in the Grant Financial Guide, Chapter 3.18, all of the information that you need to know about audit requirements. And now I'll turn it over to my colleagues, Jasmine and Matt.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jasmine Diadario-Fobian, one of OVC's Victim Justice Program Specialists. I've been with OVC coming up on 15 years now. Some of what I will be covering you all already know, as you are hopefully well past the acceptance of the award and maybe even accessing your award funds, fingers crossed. But since we hope this orientation will be a resource for existing, new, and potential grantees, we're going to quickly run through each step from accepting the award package all the way through award closeout. As Bethany stated in her presentation, it's a very good idea to discuss your special conditions and any questions you may have with your OVC grant monitor prior to accepting the award, and also so you know which of those special conditions must be passed along to your subrecipients, which is a good many of them if you have subrecipients. It's also smart to add your program specialist to your award acceptance email package just so they're aware it's been sent in and can follow up on its processing if necessary. Please do not try to fax acceptance of awards, as those are no longer accepted, and it won't tell you that it hasn't accepted it, so you'll possibly delay its processing if you don't know that it didn't go in properly and nobody knows they were supposed to have received it. So as soon as you are notified of your award, please go into the system, into GMS, and complete your financial point of contact registration. Do that review of your award and the special conditions, catch up with your grant monitor so you can discuss anything you may not understand and get oriented to your award. Your authorized representative then signs the award document and initials each special condition page, and then you'll email that acceptance into the email address shown on the screen there. The second part of award acceptance is hopefully accessing your funds. There's an online system for this to request payment of your award funds. You can also do several other things in it, like view your award balances, the history of your drawdowns, get a summary of your award information, see if there are any hold amounts, and various other things. In order to draw down and keep track of your award funds, you have to register with this grant payment request system. If you're a first-time grantee, you'll fill out and submit an automated clearinghouse form, an ACH, prior to trying to register in GPRS because it won't let you until this form is in. You can submit the form via FedEx or certified mail. Because this process can take up to a week or two, you may want to fill out this form as soon as you receive notification that you'll be awarded funds, and the mailing address can be found on the document or in the DOJ Grants Financial Guide. If you're already registered with GPRS, you'll still need to make sure that each new award is included in the system. If you're unable to draw down after your award acceptance has been processed, you may have a hold of some type on your award that requires an action to remove a special condition. For example, there may be financial holds if your budget hasn't been approved by OVC or OCFO yet. OVC may have added a programmatic hold until an additional piece of information is submitted by you. As Bethany also discussed earlier, there's multiple special conditions that may prevent you from obligating, expending, or drawing down funds until various actions have been performed or issues have been resolved. You should be aware of each of these and any active holds on your award, as well as what needs to be done to lift each of them after discussing your special conditions with your OVC grant manager. And that is the hyperlink there to access the system. And this, on this page, sorry, we may have already gone to this page already, is the hyperlink for the PDF for that ACH form. That is the first thing that you need to fill out to make sure that you're in there if you're a new grantee. The grants management system, everybody hopefully loves this picture right here. This is where you do everything for your award, pretty much, besides when we're harassing you via email and that sort of thing, which we do a lot of because we do have so much activity with our grantees, whether you're a cooperative agreement or not. I don't know, Bethany pretended that if you were a grantee you got out of that, but we know you don't. We know you love to talk to us. So this is a familiar image to you. This is the external screen for the grants management system, also known as GMS. You'll use this throughout the life cycle of your award. You will use this for activities such as submitting progress reports, financial reports, requesting a grant adjustment notice, also known as a GAN, and we'll talk about what kind of GANs there are, responding to a site visit finding or recommendation, closing out your grant, and completing GMS online training. And the hyperlink there is there. In GMS, all awards have to have that financial point of contact assigned that Bethany discussed. Your financial point of contact can be the same as your point of contact on the award, but typically a different person than the programmatic contact for each project manages recipient financial administration and financial reporting for an award. In either case, each award must have both a POC and an FPOC assigned and entered in GMS. Each POC has a different role. The program point of contact is responsible for communicating with OJP, that's us, on the programmatic aspects of the grant, including grant activities in GMS, such as submitting progress reports, the GANs, and completing the closeout package. The financial point of contact is responsible for communicating with OJP on the financial administration portion of the award, including submitting the financial reports. There are all kinds of grant adjustment notices that you can initiate in the system. It's used to request a project change, programmatic, administrative, or financial, associated with your award. Most GANs, what we call these, must be requested electronically by the grant recipient through the GAN module in GMS. Some GANs may also be initiated by your program manager. It's a good idea to discuss any GAN you might be putting in with your program manager before you put it in, just to make sure you have all the pieces, if any attachments need to be on there, that they're there. If it's just a basic GAN that's saying we are changing our address or contact information for someone or something like that, that's not something you need to discuss with us in advance. That's something you can just go ahead and put in. And there's a list there on the slide of all the different types of GANs you might be initiating in the system. The GAN lifecycle can vary. Those quick ones obviously go through far fewer people, and so they may only take a day or two, if not an instantaneous approval. A budget or scope change or something that is very complex could take a few days to a few weeks, depending on the complexity of the GAN. The system will notify you that a GAN has been officially approved once it goes all the way through, and you don't have official approval unless you have something outside of the system because of an exception, to do whatever you've requested in the GAN until you have actually received that GAN finally approved from the system. And again, it will send you an email to notify you. So here on the GAN lifecycle, we have an example of where you've submitted it. It's going through an OVC grant manager. This one is specific to a budget modification. It's going to go through our first line supervisor and then up through OCFMD's financial analyst. And then there's another step where it actually goes into the financial system. And once all of those pieces have happened, the GAN is officially approved and you'll receive a notification. So the reporting requirements that Bethany mentioned before, there are several types of reports. There are semi-annual progress reports. There are sub-award reports, which are usually specific to formula awards. There's Federal Funding and Accountability and Transparency Act reports, which we colloquially refer to as FFATA reports. There's federal financial reports that are also quarterly, and performance measurement tool reports that are quarterly. The progress reports are annual for formula awards. They must be in GMS by December 29th each year. For discretionary award recipients, you are going to be submitting a semi-annual progress report, and those are due by July 30th for the period covering January to June, and by January 30th for the period covering July to December. All progress reports should include whatever performance measures have been assigned to your award. Different OVC grants are currently reporting into several different performance measurement systems, which Matt is going to talk about in detail in the next section. If you are unsure if your grant has been assigned to a certain performance measure system in addition to GMS, please contact your grant manager and they will walk you through what you need to do. The annual formula progress report should include all 4 quarters of reports from OVC's performance management tool system, as well as the year-end annual PMT report. In addition to the required performance measures or previously generated performance measure reports, so each quarter that you're reporting should be attached to your semi-annual report, you are going to want to include a narrative that uses your project's stated deliverables and their time task plan to discuss what was accomplished during the project period, whether activities are proceeding on schedule, if there's a problem, including what has been done to solve or mitigate the problem, if anything, and if any technical assistance is needed from OVC. Is there a way that we could help you solve the problem? Discretionary grantees should also attach any tangible deliverables to the semi-annual reports in GMS wherever you can, just to illustrate and document the work on the grant. This can include publications, reports, evaluations, meeting minutes, agendas, presentations, curricula, anything you have that might be something that shows your work on the award. Anything that can't be attached, it's very helpful to us if you provide a link or discuss where to access that deliverable in the report. We really want what's in the system to be something where somebody who is not us, who is very familiar with your award, could pick up your report and see exactly what you're doing and what you've accomplished over that reporting period. The final progress report is due within 90 days of the end of the project and should include information from that reporting period as well as a summary of the award accomplishments from start to finish. Subgrantee reporting for VOCA Victim Assistance Formula Grants is due within 90 days of making that sub-award. So not 90 days of your award, but 90 days of making your sub-award. And again, you can check with your grant manager to determine if you have to report in the performance measurement tool or GMS. The FFATA report for the Federal Funding Accountability and Transparency Act, grantees that award $25,000 or more to a subrecipient are required to submit data in the FFATA sub-award reporting system. If you are a prime awardee and you have anybody that you're giving over $25,000 to, you should discuss with your grant monitor if that is something that you should be reporting into the FFATA system. Brian is going to talk a little later more on how you tell whether you have a contractor or a sub-awardee that you may need to report on. You must file the sub-award report through the FSRS at fsrs.gov, the Federal Sub-Award Reporting System, by the end of the month following the month in which your awards has totaled $25,000 to a subrecipient, and that's cumulative. So if you've been giving them smaller amounts along the way, at that point that you reach $25,000, the month after that, your report is due in the system. And you can find detailed information on this on page 125 of the new financial guide, and always reach out to your grant monitor if it's unclear or you need additional assistance. FSRS also has a dedicated help desk to provide technical assistance if you need it. You can do so by chat online or by phone at 1-866-606-8220, and all of that information is also on that website. Your quarterly federal financial report should show the actual funds that you've spent, your expenditures, and any bills you're going to pay, your unliquidated obligations incurred, the money from your own organization, if match is applicable, and program income, if that's applicable, and indirect costs for each project, if those have been approved. Pages 121 to 123 of DOJ's 2017 Federal Financial Guide provide detail on how to complete your financial report if you need assistance with that, and it has tips for your reference. Please keep in mind that for reporting deadline purposes, most of GMS is automatic, and this is true for both progress reports and financial reports. That means that if your project has not started due to waiting for a budget clearance, et cetera, if the award has been made, you will have reports due in the system on these dates referenced in this slide. It's sufficient to enter zeros if you have not begun, and just note that the project hasn't started. On a related note, your grant monitor does not have the discretion to waive or move a due date for a report that's late. The system will automatically freeze your funds if a report is delinquent, and you will receive an email from the system. Progress reports has a small grace period before it will freeze your funds. There is no grace period for delinquent financial reports, and funds will freeze immediately after this due date that is shown. The release of funds once the report is submitted is also automatic. and your final financial report is due within 90 days of the award end date, but it can be submitted as soon as you've expended all your funds. So if you've zeroed out already, you can go ahead and submit that final report. And finally, GMS Award Closeout is the process where you are hopefully compliantly closing your award after lots of successful and wonderful work. Please keep in mind that there are portions of the closeout that may take a while to complete. So, for example, financial reconciliation often takes 3 to 5 days to go through. All your special conditions must be released, which may take several days to go through, as we talked about. Your final progress report must be approved by your grant monitor before those activities and the closeout are marked as complete. So when you go into the closeout module, you'll see a list of incomplete, incomplete, incomplete. All of those have to say complete in order for the submission button to show up to you to submit a compliant closeout. If it's not completed by the due date, the system will automatically generate an administrative closeout. Please make sure you started the closeout process a couple of weeks prior to the final due date to ensure that everything has time to be completed in the system. Once each piece is listed as complete, don't forget to hit that submit button on the closeout package. Lots of people finish with flying colors and then just forget to hit that one button, and then boom, they've got an administrative closeout. And what we want people to be seeing as they go back and look at your awards is compliant, compliant, compliant closeout. Hopefully you're all still awake. We understand we are condensing a great deal of information into a small time period, so please reach out to your grant manager, as everyone has said, if you have questions about anything you're hearing, and we'll be happy to discuss it with you. And I will now turn it over to Matt to discuss performance measures in more detail.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. This is Matt Kenyon. I'm the Performance Measurement Manager at OVC, and I'm going to talk to you briefly about some of the performance measure reporting that you'll be doing for your award. OVC grantees currently report their performance data in one of 3 ways. In all 3 cases, data are prepared using a data collection system and then are uploaded into the grants management system. Your award will dictate which of these systems you use to report your performance data. Victim assistance, victim compensation, and Vision 21 programs all report into the Performance Measurement Tool, or PMT, prior to uploading reports into GMS. For the purpose of PMT reporting, Vision 21 refers to many non-formula grant programs that may or may not contain the term Vision 21 in the program title. For example, both the Vision 21 Advancing the Use of Technology to Assist Victims of Crime and the Multidisciplinary Responses to Families in Complex Homicide Cases programs report in the Vision 21 measures. If you are unsure which measures you should be reporting on, please contact your grant manager. Human trafficking grantees report their data into the Trafficking Information Management System, or TIMS. This includes grantees under the Comprehensive Services, Specialized Services, and Enhanced Collaborative Model, or ECM programs. For ECM grantees, the Victim Services Partner will report into the TIMS system, while the BJA-funded law enforcement partner will report into BJA's PMT system. All other programs, including tribal grantees and coordinated tribal assistance solicitation grantees under Purpose Areas 6 and 7, will report data through data templates. The data templates will be provided to you by your grant manager. Let's take a look at each of these reporting tools in a little more detail. Grantees reporting in PMT are asked to provide data quarterly. PMT will then aggregate these data to create either a semi-annual or annual report that you can upload to GMS. Grantees reporting on the Vision 21 measures will need to create a semi-annual report in January and July of each year, while victim assistance and victim compensation grantees will need to create an annual report after the end of each federal fiscal year. Besides being a place to report your data, PMT also contains a wealth of information on performance reporting. Grantees who report in PMT should view the Need Help page, which contains downloadable copies of the questionnaire, frequently asked questions and answers, and recorded webinar trainings on how to navigate the system and respond to the questions. If you have problems accessing PMT, technical difficulties, or questions regarding your reporting, please contact the PMT Help Desk at 1-844-884-2503 or by email at ovcpmt@usdoj.gov. Human trafficking grantees report their performance data into TIMS. Unlike other data collection systems, TIMS collects case-level data on the services received by individuals. All other data collection systems collect aggregate data on the overall efforts of the grantee. Because TIMS collects case-level data, it is expected that grantees will regularly update data in the system with new individuals and with the services provided. Every 6 months, the TIMS report will need to be uploaded into GMS. Grantees reporting in TIMS also have access to data collection sheets and training materials on the website. If you are a human trafficking grantee and have any questions about accessing TIMS, technical difficulties, or questions regarding your reporting, you can contact the TIMS Help Desk at 1-866-682-8822 or by email at humantrafficking@ovcttac.org. The final way that grantees can report performance data is through the use of data reporting templates. These are typically Word or Excel documents that allow you to fill in performance data. The templates are then uploaded to GMS, typically once every 6 months. If your program uses a template, it will be provided to you by your grant manager. Some programs may report in multiple ways. For example, a program may be asked to report on the Vision 21 measures in PMT and then also provide additional data through a reporting template. At this point, we're going to open up a poll. We're going to ask everyone to respond to this question. Do you know which system you're required to use to report performance data? You can select PMT, TIMS, other template, or if you're not sure, you can select that option. Thank you, everyone, for responding to the poll. We're just going to give it a second here to get the answers up on the screen. We'll see who is reporting in what system.
There usually is a little bit of a delay in publishing the results.
Great. You can see from the results here that PMT is the most commonly used system by 58% of those attending this webinar. Some of you are still not sure, 14%. So in the case if you're not sure which system you're going to be using, the best advice is to contact your grant manager and confirm with them exactly how you're going to be reporting your data. Looks like we have a lot of human trafficking grantees. 15% are reporting in TIMS, and then 9% of you are using some other template to report your data into GMS. I'm now going to turn the presentation over to Brian Sass.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brian Sass. I'm a grants management specialist here at the Office for Victims of Crime, and today I'm going to be talking about monitoring. So first, programmatic monitoring. Programmatic monitoring is the ongoing and constant process that's designed to ensure continued success. OVC grant managers undertake various forms of monitoring for all of our grantees, and ultimately it's aimed to assess and ensure compliance with regulations, terms, and conditions, examine the programmatic process, validate information that has been already reported through progress reports, performance measurements, and financial reports, and to provide technical assistance as necessary. Ultimately, the act of monitoring is ensuring that grants awarded by OVC are successful and remain successful throughout the life of the project. OVC does monitoring in a number of ways, but ultimately we look at the terms, objectives, and conditions of the award, and we analyze compliance with programmatic, administrative, and fiscal requirements of relevant statutes, regulations, policies, guidelines, and the grantee stated objectives and implementation plans. Our monitoring could be anywhere from phone discussions and emails, to joining for meetings and events, reviewing your progress on financial reports, coming and doing on-site monitoring visits, and performing desk reviews, which are remote forms of monitoring. Cooperative agreements, individuals who have cooperative agreements instead of grants will likely have additional direction and oversight beyond typical monitoring of grants. Monitoring typically comes in one of three ways. First is a desk review, and that's a comprehensive review of the materials that are available to us in the grant file to determine whether administrative, financial, and programmatic compliance is happening and review your grant performance. Desk reviews are not very intrusive if everything is going swimmingly. Sometimes grantees won't even know a desk review happened unless we have to reach out and request additional guidance or information from you. On the other end of things is on-site monitoring. And on-site monitoring involves your grant manager coming to your site or meeting you at a conference that you're both planning to be at, and discussing specific issues related to implementation, observing your activities, interviewing key personnel, reviewing materials and documents, including financial documents, and assessing the plan versus actual progress. Ultimately, on-site monitoring visits are going to start with an entrance conference and end with an exit conference, and it'll be a way for your grant manager to understand your project fully, assess where you're at, and see what you need in order to be successful. An EPDR, which is what we call an Enhanced Programmatic Desk Review, is essentially an on-site monitoring visit without the on-site portion. These happen less frequently, but they do sometimes occur. And it's where you will still produce the same types of materials, provide the same papers, but you and your grant manager won't meet in person. In monitoring, there are a number of typical procedures that we do. So we'll review policies and procedures related to the award. We will sample financial transactions. We'll look at how you make subawards and your procedures and processes to implement those. Likely we'll sample some of those subawards to review and ensure that you're following your policies and procedures. We look at conference cost regulations. Your grant manager will validate your programmatic data. They'll look at how you handle procurement, how you do inventory for equipment, and ultimately assess whether you're in compliance with your special conditions. The purpose of a site visit, as you can see by this nifty little chart, is cyclical. And so ultimately, we look at compliance. And so we learn about how you handle things, how the project is focused. We monitor, we provide technical assistance, and then we start over. Monitoring is not a gotcha type of thing. Our policies and procedures aren't designed to try and catch people or hold funding or anything like that. Ultimately, you and your grant manager want the same thing, which is for projects to be successful, and monitoring helps us check in regularly to ensure that everything's going the way that it's intended to. High risk status, this is a type of monitoring, I suppose. The high risk status is something that's applied to an organization, and it's typically those that have a history of unsatisfactory performance, they have some financial instability, they have financial systems that aren't adequate, and they have histories of nonconformance with terms and conditions of previous awards. There are a number of reasons that we'll go through about how a grantee is designated as a high-risk grantee. One of the primary ones is if they have an audit report that's open for more than a year. They may have been required to create a corrective action plan that was required by audit, and if it wasn't submitted within 105 days, then they'll be designated high risk. If an audit has questioned costs in excess of $500,000, if they're referred to the Treasury for collection, or if a grantee is suspended or debarred at the government level, that can all indicate a high-risk status. If your organization is designated high risk, you will receive a letter from us. It will say exactly why the high-risk designation was made. And the primary thing that comes from a high-risk designation is additional special conditions will be applied to any new awards that are made to you. And so if you're designated high risk, some of the very likely special conditions you'll receive are ones that say documentation upon request. So you'll be required to produce documentation when asked. You will likely have additional financial and programmatic monitoring beyond what is typical. Funds may be automatically withheld and only released when source documentation is provided. And there may also have more detailed or more frequent financial or programmatic reporting. So if you are high risk and you're dealing with those special conditions and you don't want to be high risk anymore, the most important thing to do is to understand how you were designated high risk in the first place. First, by reading the letter. If you don't have it, reach out to your grant manager to talk with them. And ultimately, as long as you address those items that are detailed in that letter, then we'll be able to work with you to resolve those issues and then resubmit to have our Office on Audit Assessment and Management take another look at it and figure out if high-risk status should be removed or not. Next slide. Sorry, I went too far. Okay, subgrantee monitoring. So many grantees make what we call subgrants. Subgrants are when, also known as subawards, same thing. They're used when the intent is to have another organization help you carry out a portion of the scope of work described in your award application. So if you use subawards, then you must develop systems, policies, and procedures to ensure that your subrecipients are conducting activities in accordance with the same federal program and grant requirements, the laws, and the regulations that are mandated. OVC monitors grantees, but we rely on grantees to monitor their subgrantees, which means you're going to need to have similar policies and procedures in place to ensure you're providing an appropriate level of oversight to any subrecipients that you use. So what you're required to do, and I recommend you review the DOJ Grants Financial Guide, is that all grantees must evaluate each subrecipient's risk of noncompliance and then determine the appropriate monitoring that is necessary for that subrecipient because of their risk of noncompliance. All grantees are required to consider imposing specific conditions on awards when appropriate, and you're required to verify that your subrecipients receive certain audits that are described in 2 CFR Section 200-501. Generally speaking, that's referring to A133, which is the threshold if you spend $750,000 or more in federal funds, you're required to have a special type of audit done. As an entity that provides federal funds to an organization, you have a duty to ensure that those audits take place within the appropriate timeline and take action if those audits don't happen. Your monitoring must include 3 specific items. You're required to review financial and performance reports. You're required to follow up and ensure that timely and appropriate action is taken when deficiencies are detected. And you're also required to issue management decisions when audit findings are made as required. Ultimately, you're going to want to have policies and procedures in place that help you determine the specific steps and actions that you will take with your subrecipients to ensure that you're providing substantial oversight and ensuring that federal rules and regulations are being followed. The other important thing when we're talking about subawards is to remember that there's a difference between a subaward and a subcontract. The determination between those two things is based on the substance of the activity and not the legal document. So just because you write subcontract on the top of the document doesn't necessarily make it a subcontract. What you're going to look at is what is actually being done. If you delegate program activities to another entity, generally that means what you're doing is you're producing a subaward. If you're purchasing or procuring goods or services, then that's something that's generally going to be indicative of a contract. And if you review the DOJ Grants Financial Guide, you'll find additional information on how to verify between the two. And it is important to have a process in place that you review each contract you make for funding to ensure that grant funds are being provided in an appropriate manner and you're providing the same and appropriate level of oversight that's necessary. And I am having some computer issues, so I'm not able to advance the slides. There we go. Sorry, everyone. Additionally, there is going to be monitoring done on most grantees from the Finance Office, which is the Office of the Chief Financial Officer, and through the Office of the Inspector General. Both of these entities do on-site monitoring, and the OCFO also does desk monitoring. If you are reached out to by one of those organizations for monitoring, your special conditions do require you to provide the information that is requested of you. So we'll go ahead and open up the poll. So which of the following is the theme of this year's National Crime Victims' Rights Week? Engaging communities, empowering victims, expand the circle, reach all victims, new challenges, new solutions, or justice for victims, justice for all? Let us know what you think.
All right, looks like, hi, this is Joel Hall again. Looks like we have a winner, and number B is correct. Number A is not correct. Was that,
Except those are letters, not numbers.
Yes. But expand the circle, reach all victims. That is the correct answer. And also, did you know you can help promote awareness of the crime victims' issues by using the posters and other media content in our NCWRV gallery? Posters can be personalized with local content information. Click on the link below to be included on the mailing list. And now I'm going to turn it over to our next presenter.
Thank you very much, Joe. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dorisa Payton. I am a Grants Management Specialist working in the National Programs Division and the Human Trafficking Division. I have worked for the Department of Justice for 6 years, and I have worked for OVC for 1 year. The topic of my presentation is Understanding Your Grant. Next slide. When can work begin? The first step is to review your award package, which includes your grant award notification and special conditions document. The award package includes the dates for your project period or program period. These dates are your start and end dates for your grant award. Project work cannot begin until the grant agreement has been fully executed, which means that it's signed by the grantee and countersigned by the Secretary of the Attorney General or the Deputy Secretary. Expenses cannot be incurred nor matching funds utilized until the grant has been fully executed. Again, that means signed by the grantee, in particular the authorized official representative and DOJ officials. Funds spent before the grant has been fully executed will not count toward matching funds and will not be considered part of the project. Exceptions are granted on a case-by-case basis only with the approval of the grants administrator. Expenses cannot be incurred until the final budget is approved by OVC and the Office of the Chief Financial Officer, also referred to as OCFO. Next slide. The following bullets highlight the expectations for grantees. Access the award package in GMS and sign and return the award document. Review the special conditions on the award document. Manage the project according to the requirements, standards, and guidance contained in the grant terms and conditions. Submit all required reports, including the financial and progress reports by due dates. Complete all deliverables, the goals and the objectives of the grant, as stated in your application, the solicitation, or in a special condition. Do not obligate or expend funds until you receive final budget clearance. Again, do not obligate or expend funds until you receive final budget clearance. Next slide, please. There are also expectations for grant managers, including reviewing the grant terms, objectives, conditions, and grantee organization and key personnel, contacting the grantee to discuss requirements of the grant, monitoring the grantee compliance with programmatic, administrative, and physical requirements of relevant statutes, regulations, policy guidelines, and with grantee stated objectives and implementation plan. Performing desk reviews, enhanced desk reviews, or site visits, approving progress reports, approve modifications to awards, for an example, GANs. And for cooperative agreements, I want you to know, please note, for cooperative agreements or grantees with high-risk status, grant managers may provide additional direction and oversight, which might include at a minimum more frequent conference calls to discuss the grant award and may request a review and approval of additional grant-related documents. Next slide. There are some common misconceptions. The first one is that you can change the scope of work or use funds without the grant manager's permission. You must request prior approval to change the scope of work or use grant funds for activities or services that were not included in your budget. Please discuss with your grant manager or grant monitor, as you may have to submit a GAN to make changes to your grant award. You must be good stewards of the funds. They were given for a purpose to provide services, assistance, and or compensations to victims of crime. The next misconception is all awards are grants. A grant is different from a contract, but a cooperative agreement is a grant. A contract is the purchasing or procuring of goods and services, whereas a cooperative agreement is a type of discretionary grant that requires substantial government involvement throughout the life of the grant, which includes more direction and oversight involving the implementation of the goals and objectives of the grant award. The last misconception, although there are many others, these are just a few that we are highlighting today. There is a pool of money with an award. Most cash is received on an expenditure reimbursement basis. You may have to reimburse OJP for unallowable expenses. Organizations should request funds based upon immediate disbursement reimbursement requirements. Funds will not be paid in a lump sum, but rather dispersed over time as project costs are incurred or anticipated. Funds are released on a drawdown basis via the grants payment request system. If funds are drawn down for expenses that were not approved in your budget, you will have to reimburse DOJ for unallowable expenses. Next slide. This slide is a visual of the mechanics of your award. These are 3 key documents that will always be reviewed and referred to throughout the life of your grant award. You apply for the grant via a request for proposal or solicitation. You submitted your project narrative and budget. They were reviewed and you were awarded a grant. These are the reference documents for grant monitors and or grantees. Next slide. If you are an existing grantee with a new grant award, you may be familiar with the documents that are reviewed during a site visit. If you are not familiar with what should be included in your grant file, please ensure you are building your grant file with these documents. The signed award document, including the initial special conditions, progress report, financial report, the approved application, which should include the budget, program narratives, and other required documentation, correspondence with your OJP grant manager, that might include emails and letters, and copies of the approved grant adjustment notices. Next slide. I spoke briefly about prior approval on a previous slide, but I want to reiterate that some costs require prior approval by law as specified in Title II of the Code of Federal Regulations. Examples include compensation for consulting services in excess of the current OJP consulting rate maximum limit. The current consulting rate is $650 per day. Sole source procurement in excess of $150,000, publication plans, the purchase of automatic data processing equipment and software, costs incurred prior to the date of the subaward period, and foreign travel. Next slide. This is my very last slide and a polling question. The question is, OVC provides training and technical assistance, TTA, to grantees. What type of TTA would your program benefit from? Financial, programmatic, expanding knowledge on victim services, program and staff sustainability, or grant compliance? We will give you a moment, a few minutes, or a minute or so to answer this question. The poll has ended. We are now waiting for the results to post.
So it looks like everybody, the majority of the people are interested in grant compliance, that they would benefit from that.
Thank you very much for your responses and listening to my presentation. I will now turn it over to my colleague, Shelby Crawford.
Thanks, Teresa. Hello, everyone. I'm Shelby Jones Crawford. I'm a program manager, and my role at OVC is that I have oversight for OVC's Training and Technical Assistance Center, which we call TTAC. What I want to do today, briefly, is to talk a little about TTAC, about the approach behind the work that they do, and the resources that TTAC offers. Next. For the purposes of the work that TTAC does, capacity building involves the process of identifying internal and external barriers that inhibit victim service organizations from delivering effective services to all crime victims, and building on existing strengths, enhancing skills, and providing new tools to overcome those barriers. TTAC's training and technical assistance specialists conduct a thorough needs assessment to maximize the use of OVC's resources to build capacity. So as the graphic shows you, outreach, collaboration, engagement, and relationship building all work, we hope, towards capacity building. OVC through OVC TTAC provides an array of standardized face-to-face trainings on topics relevant to victim service providers and allied professionals. The trainings range from 1 to 3 days, and OVC offers these trainings to build skills in a particular topic for providers in community or state or region in order to build capacity of participants to serve crime victims. Some topics are delivered through a blended learning approach, a combination of virtual and face-to-face trainings. For these trainings, OVC TTAC provides at no cost 1 or 2 instructors, depending on the subject, an on-site coordinator from TTAC, instructor training materials, and participant manuals for each participant. Pretty good deal. OVC TTAC will identify the approved instructors for the requested training, and approved instructors are familiar with the curricula and, in many cases, even help to develop the materials. And what the recipient is responsible for is covering any costs associated with the training facility and audio, video, and other equipment. All participants, we hope, will attend in person. OVC TTAC uses a network of consultants and experts in the victim services field to design and deliver customized technical assistance on a wide range of topics to address the most pressing needs and to build capacity to better serve crime victims. Those folks eligible include victim service providers, criminal justice professionals, and allied professionals who work in communities or state agencies or nonprofits, tribal organizations, and other institutions that serve victims of crime. And so all these folks are eligible. Regarding the criteria for evaluating technical assistance applications, OVC reviews and makes funding decisions on all technical assistance applications. Key criteria for evaluating applications include, the fact that, whether or not the assistance will expand the capacity of the organization to effectively address the needs of victims in communities or geographic areas that are being served. The requested assistance is not provided by another federal organization, including an ongoing recent grant. Whether the requested assistance falls within the mission and the funding priorities identified by OVC, and the organization applying for assistance will contribute resources or funds towards the delivery of the requested assistance. Next slide. Victim Assistance Online, or VAT Online as we call it, is a foundational web-based victim assistance training program that offers victim service providers and allied professionals the opportunity to acquire the essential skills and knowledge they need to more effectively assist victims of crime. Now, this training was funded by OVC and developed by OVC TTAC, working closely with a group of nationally known subject matter experts who combine theory with practical experience. Both OVC staff and the subject matter experts decided on a range of topics to include in the training. Now, just a little bit about that. VAT is updated about every 2 years. It currently has 4 sections that are basic, core competencies and skills, crimes, and specific considerations for providing victim services. The basic section includes information that all victim service providers should know, including victims' rights and justice systems, which provides a foundation for victim services. The core competencies and skills section includes modules such as basic communication skills, confidentiality, and advocacy. The crime section includes characteristics and prevalence of crime and other information about crimes, including sexual assault, elder abuse, and child abuse. The special considerations for providing victim services section includes information and skills that serve populations such as LGBTQ populations, campus and university victims of crime, and victims of sexual assault in the military. Now, each module in VAT Online is taught using interactive methodologies, case studies, exercises, and other suggested activities to enhance the user's learning. The intended audience is new victim service providers with less than 3 years of experience working with victims of crime. The training also will serve as a refresher course for more experienced victim service providers. And the entire training takes about 43 hours to complete. It does not have to be completed all in one sitting. In fact, it's divided into various modules and sections so that the user can review it at his or own pace and bookmark the last module reviewed. Each module takes about 30 to 90 minutes to complete, and learners can complete all the modules, or they can complete specific modules based on their learning needs. This is the face page of OVC TTAC's website. Please stop by and visit for a while because I'm certain you'll find something useful to your work. The web address is www.ovcttac.gov. Now I'm going to turn the mic over to Mary Jo for the next section. You're on the home stretch now. Mary Jo?
Hi, everyone. This is Mary Jo Govicini, and I am a contractor with the National Criminal Justice Reference Service. I'd like to spend a little bit of time giving you a brief overview of the OVC Resource Center, which is operated by NCJRS. The Resource Center supplies victim services field with resources, publications, and program information to help inform decision-making. In doing that, we offer a couple services. We offer trained information specialists that are available to assist you whether you're looking for a statistic, or if you're looking for the latest research for your topic, or if you just simply want to order an OVC publication. The information specialists are there to assist you. NCJRS and the OVC Resource Center also have a library of collection of over 200,000 titles. It is one of the largest dedicated criminal justice collections in the world, and over 30,000 of those titles are related to victim resources. NCJRS and OVC Resource Center also has a comprehensive Q&A database to help you easily find answers to the questions that you may have. I encourage you to register with NCJRS so you can stay informed about the latest from OVC and its partner agencies. This would include announcements about new funding opportunities and publication releases. You can register by going to ncjrs.gov, which is the URL at the bottom of this slide. Next, I'd like to tell you about OVC's Mass Violence Toolkit. OVC designed this toolkit to help communities prepare for and respond to victims of mass violence and terrorism in the most timely and effective and compassionate manner possible. You may access this toolkit through the OVC website or via the URL listed at the bottom of the slide. The next two slides that I'm going to go over have important websites. These websites were mentioned throughout the presentation, but we decided to pull them together into two slides so that you can easily access them if you need to go back and reference them. So information on the grant payment request system, PMT, OVC's website could be located here. At this time, we are going to open it up to questions and answers. I know we've received a lot of questions throughout the webinar, and some of them have been answered. So we will we'll start taking in some new ones. Will the slides be shared after this presentation is our first question. Yes, these slides and the audio recording will both be posted to the OVC website in approximately 10 business days. The link to that is located in the first or second slide of the presentation. You will also receive an email indicating when they've been posted, and it will give you a direct link to that presentation. How does the process of applying for continuation funding of a grant work?
Basically, that can depend on your grant. I would go to your grant manager to ask about that. There are many different variables, so go to the grant manager to ask about that. We have next question that I saw was about financial point of contact, and can a grantee remove or change the financial point of contact? Absolutely, but they don't notify the grant manager. What they have to do is a GAN, which we talked about, and its point of contact. There's two types, POC point of contact or FPOC, financial point of contact. You would go in, you would take the old person's name and then put the new person's in, and this is very important, you should probably have a letter, some kind of information certifying that this individual is now being changed, whether it's a letter from a boss, or if it's a program head, somebody much larger, you might want to have some kind of documentation. But usually we require you to provide proof that this person is now the correct person.
And related to that, we had someone ask if GMS is open only to the POCs, or can an alternate to a POC register? Each grantee has an ID and a password associated, and whoever has this ID and password is able to access the system. And you can also go into GMS and designate backup contacts if you need to.
I see one here that says we received a human trafficking grant, but it's not a direct service grant. Do we still report into TIMS? Is there any information that needs to be reported into TIMS that is not level data? I can't see the bottom, but TIMS, does that go down to the subgrantee level?
It does. What I will recommend is you reach out to your program manager, because I guess my first question is what's the name of the program that you're referring to? The Comprehensive Services Program, the Specialized Services Program, the JVTA, all of them are primarily direct services, and the grantees are required to report via TIMS. So please reach out to your grant manager.
Is it possible for states to remove an FPOC assigned to a grant award?
I just answered that one.
Sorry.
But let's go to the one below that. Is GMS open only to is GMS only open to POCs, or can it be alternate POCs? Okay, all right. So the answer is yes. You can have as many as you, well, not as many, but you can have many.
But you all have to if you're listed in GMS, you have to complete that required grant financial management training.
All right, we have a next question. Can you repeat who reports quarterly and who reports semi-annually? That would be everybody. Now, that's a complicated question.
Everybody does both.
Everybody does both is the correct answer. Everybody reports quarterly into PMT or TIMS or other things. In GMS, most of the grantees will be required to report semi-annually. There are some exceptions, but that is for the formula state grantees. If you are not an in-state agency, it's probably you're going to have to report semi-annually. So that would be both the PMT quarterly and then uploading that information into the GMS semi-annual progress report.
And all financial reports are quarterly.
If an organization needs to make changes to comply with the standards, do these changes need to be implemented as soon as the award is received or when funds are released?
I don't know.
For that one, it would depend on what changes you're being asked to make or what changes you've noticed you need to make if something is non-compliant. Hopefully that would have been noticed when an application comes in and the program office would have said this needs to be changed to make this a compliant award. That is another thing where you're going to want to go right to your grant manager and discuss what might need to be changed if it's not something that was flagged already.
If our grant started on 10/1/17, are we required to submit a semi-annual report?
Yes.
We have multiple DOJ grants, and they are all under the GMS login, even though we have different POCs for each grant. Is there a way to assign distinct logins for each contract?
I think that depends on how you've registered for the GMS system. So that may be something where we need to talk to the GMS help desk to see what's possible there.
How do we access the grant financial training? If you go to our website or the OJP website, you will be able to find a link if you type in grants financial training. There's two. There's one that's on-site, held every quarter, and then there's the one that's more accessible to everybody, which is online financial management training. These are required that you take at least one of these. So if you go to the Office of Justice Program, www.ojp.gov.
The link is provided in an earlier.
And the link is provided in an earlier slide. If you want to go back, and it should provide that for you.
And in your special conditions, if you go back to your award, there's a link to all of the trainings that OCFO will recognize as a grant management training.
If our grant budget has not been approved yet, is it correct that we do not turn in any of the reports that are due on January 30th?
No. The system thinks that you are reporting. The system thinks that you are active, and the system is automatic. You can't obligate or expend funds, but you do need to be turning in reports. If you need to put zeros in the reports and say we haven't begun yet due to waiting for our budget to be approved, that is perfectly fine. You can do that both for financial reports, performance reports for performance measures, and progress reports. Please do report, because you don't want to have something say that you didn't report and be flagged as high risk later because it thinks you were delinquent in reporting, even though you had nothing to say, which we understand is awkward, but it is automatic. So please do go in and do your report.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add to that, I know some of your budgets are still pending. So as a result, you don't have access to your grant funds, but it's still a requirement that you submit your report. And let's just say hypothetically that your budget is approved today and you don't submit that report, you automatically have a withholding on your grant award and you will not be able to draw down any funds.
And some grants, specifically the formula grants, but there are other exceptions, actually start a year behind based on the budget. So a lot of times you may owe 6 or 7 financial reports, and so you will put zeros in all of them. So this primarily goes to the states, but I know of 2 exceptions where it's different. So if your grant started the year before, you got 4, 5, 6 financial reports to put big zeros on.
This next question doesn't have a question in it specifically stated, but there is a question here. We are working on a report, but it will have no expenditures. We are currently advertising for the position. I'm going to fill the report out, but there will not be any data on it.
That's fine. Just put in zeros.
Zeros are NA, or you can say no, nothing to report at this time.
As long as the report is submitted.
Yeah.
And just give me a second. I'm looking to see if we're missing anything.
I see one. I'm a new grantee and having trouble accessing the PMT website. The first thing to do is contact the PMT help desk, which should be on the cover page of the PMT. If you continue to have issues, you can always contact your grant manager. However, just be aware, and Matt can back me up, the PMT is not a site that's kept on site by OVC. It's one of our support sites, so we don't have direct control over the PMT. We have a contractor who works on that, so you need to contact them first. There can be many different reasons why you can't get on, whether it be wrong email addresses, wrong grant number you're entering in, or anything like that, but contact the help desk.
Is there a certificate of completion for completing VET?
The answer is yes. VET, the Victim Online Training. I'm pretty sure there is. It's not a requirement, but if I can remember, because I've taken it myself, I got a little certification at the end. Shelby is on the line, if she still is, but
yes, you're correct.
Can you get us correct? All right.
Where can I read the audit reports for the OIJ that discuss prior audits of past grantees?
Well,
the OIG website has.
The OIG website is public information. You can go to them and look at.
So every federal agency has an Office of the Inspector General. So if you type in your search engine on the internet, DOJ, OIG, and you can even kind of narrow that if you want to look at OVC grants. That would be fabulous to kind of go and see what some of the common findings of past OVC grantees have been and try to get ahead of that. That would be fantastic.
And the current, and the most common findings are cash in hand and
excess cash in hand.
Excess cash in hand and not maintaining appropriate financial documents to track match. So if you're going to do match, you better have your volunteers sign timesheets and I could spend all day on that one. That's a separate webinar. But basically, make sure you appropriately document and keep your match documentation.
If the government is shut down, will GMS still be up?
We don't know. But grantees are able to continue their work, but they may not be able to access some of the federally funded websites and resources.
And there will be emergency personnel here. If that does happen, communications will be coming out of OJP in the event that there is a shutdown, and they will communicate with the grantees.
Depending on how long or if GPRS shuts down, that really will depend on the size of the shutdown. So we cannot answer that question right now.
At this time, there are no new questions in the queue. I'll give you all a few more minutes to see. We actually have some time left on the webinar.
Well, I want to thank everybody for participating. If we don't receive any questions, it's been an honor to present to you. And this will be posted live, and we hope to have this every year. If you've attended it this time, you can always attend it next year, but please, if you have other support staff that are critical to your VOCA grant, and they didn't attend this time, maybe next year they can attend as well, because this is very information that helps not just with the VOCA grants, but other OJP grants, Office of Justice Program grants.
And guys, this is our first time doing this online format. We know it was a lot to kind of take in, especially via webinar, but if you have some suggestions about content we should focus more or less on, please feel free to share that feedback, because we'd like to continue to improve this orientation every year.
Well, if that's it, we're done with questions. We want to thank you for your time. We're going to release you right now. We're going to release the webinar. Thank you for your participation, and have a wonderful day.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right.